What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out the Among the Ashes podcast tonight. We're your hosts, Wes and Chris. On this week's episode, we're going to switch it up just a little bit, and we're going to be bringing on a gentleman named Branon Miller from the southern rock band SLICKSON REVOLVER. Brandon's going to share what it's like touring in 2024 and what it's like trying to bring back good old southern arena rock. Yep, you heard me right, southern arena rock. This band takes me back to my childhood, guys. It reminds me of bands like Boston, Journey, Motley Crue. He's just got an incredible vocal range. The band is super tight. And what makes this interview even better is that Brandon's just a super cool guy, and he's an awesome dude to sit down and chat with. He's toured with the Artimus Pile Band, who, by the way, is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd. He's also toured with 38 Special, Lynum, and many others. We hope you enjoy this episode. If you've ever been interested in the music industry and what it's like behind the scenes, this is an episode for you. But before we get into that, I just want to take a minute and thank everybody who has subscribed on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of our other social media platforms. We really do appreciate it. If you haven't yet, go on over to YouTube and subscribe there. Then jump over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and hit the follow button there as well. You can find all of those at Among the Ashes podcast. Would really help us out. We would really appreciate it. Then share us with your friends. Leave us a like, a comment, download an episode for later, whatever you want to do there. We just want you to know we really do appreciate your support. Well, that's enough babbling from me, so go grab a drink, grab a snack, sit back and relax, and enjoy this week's episode with Branon Miller from the band SLICKSON REVOLVER. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Among the Ashes podcast tonight. We're your hosts, Wes and Chris. Chris, how's your day been, man?
It's been good. It's been good. It's just rainy.
Yeah, rainy, thunderstorms. Yeah. Mine started out kind of rough. I jumped up in a good mood, got dressed, ready to go. I was going to come up here and do some work, and I was going to run to the store and grab a drink, and had a friggin' flat tire, man.
Oh, that's terrible.
So I went to the dump on Friday. No, I'm sorry. I went to the dump yesterday morning. It never fails. If I go to the dump, I pick up something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. At least it's not, the cloud.
We had one of our trucks come in the other day, or roll back, and he'd been out at the dump, and he had about 15 nails in both of his front tires.
Yeah.
So
it's always fun. I always jump out and kind of scan the ground before I back in, but
I don't know if I'd jump out at the dump. You might get something in your shoe.
Yeah, you could, man. You could for sure. That screw was all of about an eighth of an inch long. So maybe I need some new tires, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With some tread on them, could be possibly it. So well, all right. Well, we got a pretty good show tonight. A good friend of ours, Tommy Black, recommended this guy to us, and they got some good music.
Yeah. I was listening to it. They sound really good.
Yeah, if you like Southern rock, man, they're pretty on point. So, without further ado, we're going to introduce Mr. Branon Miller with the band SLICKSON REVOLVER. We're going to introduce Mr. Branon Miller with the band SLICKSON REVOLVER. Brandon, you there, man?
I sure am.
How you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. How about y'all?
Man, doing good. Little impromptu interview here for us, man. We appreciate you coming on last minute and be willing to do a little bit with us. So, tell us a little bit about Branon. Where are you from, man?
Well, originally from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. That's where I'm originally from, and currently residing in Nashville, pretty much full time.
Yeah.
I still got my place back home, but my kids are there, and but music being up here, I'm pretty much up here about 75% of the time.
Yeah.
So
I know when we talked last week, you were at the beach. How'd that trip go?
Went good. It was my son's birthday. He just turned the big 7, so he thinks he's 7 going on 17.
Right. Right. So is he the only child you have?
I have a daughter that's 10. I got a 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
So
I've got 4 kids. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 10. And it's a journey, man. It's exciting. It happens fast. You wake up and they're grown up, but I fully understand what you're saying with 7 going on 17. My 10-year-old's that way, man. She's 10 going on 40. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She's the boss around here. She tends to mama everybody and kind of rule the roost a little bit. I guess that comes with being the baby, but I don't know. She's a mess. She's a handful. Chris has got a couple of kids himself.
Yeah, I got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old.
So we're right there with you, man. So how is life as a father, but being on the road?
It's pretty tough, man.
Yeah,
it really is. It's caused a lot of heartache, and I don't dive into my personal life very much, but it's been it's been very, very hard being away from them, and causes a lot of issues. But when your life is music and your work is music, you're on its time.
Yeah,
it ain't on your time, and that's just the sacrifice that we make to to try to make it in this industry. And we're looking at a pretty big break here in the next week or two. I've got my lawyers going over some things. It's looking like we might have a pretty good record deal over the next week or two. So
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I'm having my lawyers go over everything right now, and we're supposed to have a meeting next week to see what all it entails, because there's always fine print and stuff like that. So
sure. My brother-in-law was in a band for years. They were called Ohio Avenue. They were a Christian rock band, and saw a lot of success. I mean, they traveled full time for probably 5-6 years. And it was always the record deals that come down to, it's like, man, we're so close, but they just want to take everything you got and not do anything for you. So finding the right one, doing the right things, is a tough decision for sure.
Yeah, the deal they presented to me was actually kind of surprising. Because this is going to be a stepping stone. It's not a major label. It's like a mid-level. This will be a good stepping stone for us, to help get us out there on a broader scale. And we are going to get distribution through Sony Music, which is great. If I agree to the contract,
sure.
We'll get distribution through Sony, which will be great. On an international level, we're actually going to officially release Crossroads, our first album, professionally through Sony. The first time I released it about a year ago, was just through DistroKid. But didn't have any money to put behind it, didn't have no means to promote it or to get it out there on a major scale. Sure. But this record label is in with Sony, and they're offering to push the record. So we're kind of going to make an official international release of the record with a heavy push behind it. So I'm hoping that Crossroads will finally get the attention and the push that it needs to help catapult us to the next couple of levels.
Right. And I mean, that's a freaking amazing to hear. I know with Derek and them on their journey, man, and we have been associated, I guess, with the music industry, not really music industry, but playing shows. Chris and I both were in a worship band and played together. And so we get how hard that is, finding the balance and then making sure that you're doing what's best for everybody in the band as well. It's tough. I was telling Tommy, I never understood why musicians were just so hell bent on pursuing music until we started doing this podcast. And, I created something, and to whether or not it looks good to anybody else or sounds good to anybody else, I'm proud of it. And it really kind of made me understand the whole creative side, the artistry side, and what musicians go through, why they're so willing to just sacrifice things. Not that you're sacrificing your family or anything like that, but it is a sacrifice to try to pursue something and pursue your dreams, but also set up dreams for your family as well, and a life for them. So I commend you on doing it, man. That's some awesome stuff. So, how long you been playing music, man? How long you been pursuing this goal?
Well, I picked up the guitar seriously when I was about 11. I got one when I was like 9 years old, and but just didn't have an interest on it at the time. I was just too young. And about 11 is when I really started taking an interest in it. The music bug bit me when I was about 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, somewhere along in there. Freebird the movie had just come out, the first movie documentary about Lynyrd Skynyrd. Now, it wasn't like a reenactment. They just took a lot of old footage and made a theatrical kind of a film out of it. It's more or less like a big autobiography with live concert footage. And it had just come out. And my father was gone all the time. He worked on pipelines for a living, and he was a pipeline guy. And he come home one weekend and was flipping through channels and come across CMT. And Freebird the movie had just come out, and they were premiering it all weekend, like on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And right when he flipped over to it, but the last song on the movie is Freebird, live from Oakland Stadium, July 2nd, 1977. They were opening for Peter Frampton on his Comes Alive tour. And right when he flipped to it, they just come out of the middle piano solo into the last verse of the song before the solo. So my introduction to rock music and Lynyrd Skynyrd was "Bye Bye Baby, It's Been a Sweet Love." Yeah, like that's the first. That was my introduction to rock music or music in general, because my parents didn't play the radio at home. There was no instruments, there was no nothing. I mean, I didn't even know what the hell a concert was. I didn't know what a band was. I was completely ignorant. And when I heard that, I was like, and I saw the first person I saw was Ronnie Van Zant. And then as the camera started zooming out, I saw Alan Collins, and he was in this all white, awesome clothes and had this gold Gibson Explorer. It looked gold, and now I know it was Karani yellow. And I was just taken by Alan, like how he looked, and and he had this badass looking guitar, and like I was glued to the TV, and then little did I know what was coming.
Right.
And then when the music went into double time, I went, oh hell. Something's fixing to get going. And as soon as he ripped into those first few notes of Freebird, like it's like my soul got struck by lightning. That's the best way I can describe it. I was mesmerized by this. And then looking at a sea of people that, come to find out, there was over 125,000 people there that day. And I'm watching him just absolutely melt the freaking strings off this freaking guitar in front of 125,000 people. And they're all going insane for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew then, I was like, I don't really know what I'm watching. I don't know what's really going on. I just know I love what it looks like. I love what it sounds like. And I love how all the people are acting.
That's what I want.
And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't know what it is, but that's what I want to do. And then as I got older, I started understanding that, that was a rock band, and, they play music to, in front of big stadiums and theaters, amphitheaters, blah, blah, blah. And, but I tried to play guitar from that point on up to about 10 years old, and I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't stay focused on it. And then about 11, it's like one day I'm like, I'm gonna go get my brother's old guitar out of the closet upstairs. So he had this little knockoff Cruise guitar. It was Korean made. It was all black, and it only had 4 strings on it. They were all rusted and beat up. It was a pawn shop guitar,
right?
And so I went and got it out of his closet and brought it downstairs and turned the radio on, and I was just trying to find something that sounded like what I wanted. And then I discovered Rock 104. Out of Hattiesburg. We were living in Purvis, Mississippi at the time. And they were playing a lot of the stuff that kind of appealed to me, like Cream and, Skynyrd and Guns N' Roses and Ozzy. They were playing all the classic rock stuff. And I was like, I didn't know what the hell I was listening to. I just knew I liked it. So I was sitting there noodling around on this guitar with 4 strings that obviously were completely out of tune. And I was teaching myself how to play songs on single notes on 4 strings.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't worth a shit, but it made me realize that, I can play by ear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I can tune a guitar completely by ear to standard, half step, or full step down by ear.
Yeah, that's great.
If I hear a band playing, I can tell you what the guitars, what they're tuned in, whether it's half step or standard or C, and if it's half step drop and they drop the E string, it's not drop D, it's drop C sharp. Mm-hmm. I can tell.
That's great. And so, like, I taught myself to play bass out of necessity for our worship band, and have played with some guys who can do that. You know what I mean? But it just never made sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot hear it. I can hear the bass note. You know what I mean? I can hear the pocket. I can hear the groove. I can stay there. But like, to tune a guitar ain't happening without a tuner. You know what I mean? Yeah. I couldn't tell you if you were off key or not. You know what I mean? And that's, I guess, the difference in a musician and somebody just trying to mess around and play.
You were just a guitar holder.
Yeah. I was a placeholder. I was the best looking one. So, I just hung out on stage and looked good.
He doesn't know, but we just used the bass track on the Mac.
Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, that's pretty incredible to know that you've got an ear like that. Definitely God-given ability, God-given talent there, man. It's few and far between, I would say,
and I didn't realize it at the time until I probably got about 19, 20 years old, that, how many even guitar players, whoever, that's been playing guitar longer than me, and it probably could outshred me. They can't tune a guitar by ear, not that well.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just have this ability that I can tell if it's in standard E flat or full step, in C. If you're in standard and you drop the E string, that's drop D. And if you're in half step and you drop the E string, that's drop C sharp. And then if you're a full step down, what I call Motley Crue tuning, because Motley Crue played everything a full step down. If you're a Motley, full step down and you drop the E string, that's drop C. So,
well, I feel like there's a difference, like you were saying. I feel like there's a difference between somebody who, like you, who just has that ability to hear it, and then you have those people who just study music theory their whole life.
Right.
Sure, they can do things, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not natural born talent.
Yeah, and there's a definite difference in people who, and I'm not taking away from those people that study music and learn how to play and things like that. But when you've just got an ear for it, and that's one thing I picked up on just listening to some of your music. I'm like, this guy has taught himself, not taught himself and doesn't do it correctly, but like he knows what he's doing. Like he can hear it, he can play it. He's definitely got some natural talent there. Something I wish I had, man, because I enjoy music. I enjoyed playing music. I don't know that I would have ever wanted to tour. I'm sure it's fun. Like I'm a minister. I'm a youth pastor, or was for years. So I preach.
My brother's a pastor.
Yeah, so I know that feeling of being on stage and this sounds terrible. It's not that I'm up there doing it for me. I'm not. I'm doing it for Jesus 100%. But like there is something empowering about getting whatever's inside of you out to somebody else, whether it be the word of God or whether it be music or whatever your gifting and talent is, you put it out there. It's addicting. Even as a minister, it's addicting for sure, So you started at 11. So that would be about how many years? How old are you now?
I'll be 33 in October. So it's been right at 20 years. 21 in October.
Yeah. So when did you first start playing in a band?
I joined my first band when I was 16. It's interesting how it happened. There was, high school, guys that I was in high school with. I think I was a freshman, if I remember right. I was a freshman, and there was this sophomore rock band. Their singer just quit at random or whatever. So my buddy Andrew that played drums for him, he called me up. He said, "Hey," he's like, "You can sing, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I've never sang in front of people. I've never done anything." And he said, "Look," he said, we're doing Battle of the Bands here in a couple of weeks. Won't you come over and rehearse with us a few times and just have fun?" So, I was reluctant, but I went ahead and done it. I figured like hell, if I'm ever going to get any type of popularity in school, this would probably be an opportunity because I was kind of a nobody.
Sure.
I wasn't, not that I was picked on in high school or nothing like that. I just didn't have much of a status with anybody. So long story short, done Battle of the Bands, and we done Welcome to the Jungle and Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. Those were the two songs we did. And apparently I done a great job because the next day, man, the girls and the guys were all wanting to be my best friend after that, and I didn't quite know what to think about it. Like, it was just so bizarre. But then I realized, I'm like, maybe I'm onto something here. But I discovered I could sing when I was about 13. I was probably about 13 because my aunt gave me a Journey's Greatest Hits album. And I like
Journey. Your Journey and carry a tune with them. You definitely got something, that's for sure.
She gave me their Greatest Hits album for Christmas because my aunt, was a big 80s rock and hair metal fan. And she gave me their Greatest Hits record. And I had heard the song Only the Young. And of course, Don't Stop Believing, because this is back in the early 2000s. Don't Stop Believing and Any Way You Want It. I had heard those three songs, whether it be on like a TV station commercial or maybe on radio somewhere. I had kind of heard bits and pieces of it. But on that record, there was one song that really stuck out to me. For some reason, I've always connected with it emotionally, and that was the song "Mother Father," which is one of the deeper cuts. But they played it live a lot, and that song has some of the most insane vocal ranges I've ever heard, ever.
Yeah.
And Steve Perry really showcased his voice more live than he ever did in the studio. And I started singing along with the whole album. And then when I stumbled across Mother Father, I realized that I could hit these notes, without having to push real hard. And the more I did it, the easier it got. I started building up, my muscles and everything. And I was like, the music that's out there on the radio at the time was like, Shine Down, bands like Cage the Elephant, and Lord, that whole early mid 2000s era.
Yeah.
Music was all out there, Blink 182 and all those guys. So anyway, the Goo Goo Dolls, all those bands were out there on the rock charts, but none of them sounded or sang like that.
Well, the unfortunate thing for that late 90s, early 2000s, they all sounded like Scott Stout. You know what I mean? Like
I know what you
mean. Crazy musicians. I saw a TikTok the other day of a guy going through progression of, late 90s, early 2000s rock. And he started, with Pearl Jam and hit Creed and Nickelback and then ended up at Dave Matthews Band. But, all of them had that same sound. And then when we got to Dave Matthews, he would hit those high breaky notes,
Yeah.
But not to take anything away from those bands. They were great bands and part of my time, but they're not Journey. They're not. It's crazy to say because those bands are stupid talented, but the vocal ranges of your Axl Roses, your Motley Crues, those bands from the late 70s and 80s, man, those guys did some stupid stuff with their voices. Pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was very competitive back then because you had Lou Gramm from Foreigner, Brad Delp from Boston, and then you had Steve Perry from Journey, and then you had the guy that sang for what was that? They done that song Hold the Line, not Hold the Line, Lay It on the Line, Lay It on the Line. That song, y'all know the band I'm talking about. But those guys, like their vocal ranges were so damn high. It was just insane.
Was it
and
Triumph.
Triumph. That's it. Triumph. Thank you. And even REO Speedwagon has some pretty decent range stuff. Chicago has some stuff. That whole late 70s to about from like 1977, 76 to about 1986.
Yeah.
That whole 10-year arena rock era.
Yeah.
And then by 86, the hair metal stuff kicked in. You had Poison and it was Motley Crue was already out there, but but Poison took the glam to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
When I first saw that album, I thought they were girls.
I did too, man. I remember my cousin had a poster hanging in their room, and I'm looking at it, and I see Bret Michaels and CC DeVille and all of them, and I remember asking her, "Who's the girl in the band?" And she's like, "There's no girls in the band." And I was like, "That's a girl," talking about CC DeVille.
Right.
And I'm ashamed to say that CC DeVille was the hottest rocker chick I had ever seen it, and when I was like 5 years old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And find out it's a dude, But
crazy, yeah. When I was little, my aunt had their record on vinyl. Look What the Cat Dragged In.
Yeah.
And I saw them, and I remember saying something like, "These girls are pretty," or something like that. And she starts laughing her ass off. She's like, "Brandon," she said, "those are dudes. That's from the hair metal era." But I didn't know what the hell she was talking about.
Yeah. CC DeVille had hair that most women would have killed for back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine the Aquanet on that tour bus? The amount of hairspray on that tour bus.
Oh, the hairspray. Ooh.
Right.
You get high just off the hairspray.
Yeah.
And but anyway, but as far as the vocal discovery, I mean, I discovered I could hit those ranges, and I was like, there's nothing out there on the charts that sounds like that anymore. But I was in no position at all to even try to do anything original up until just about 3 or 4 years ago. I just couldn't financially afford it.
Yeah.
You know, and and to be honest with you, I really wasn't ready to do original material because, you know, I kind of had this hope that, well, if I'm performing in Vegas one day or something, you know, and some band walks in and hears me singing, maybe they'll let me come sing with them, you know, an already established classic band. You know, I had that dream for a long time and it just never come to pass. Now, I made a great living doing tribute bands and cover bands for years. You know, I played in Vegas and all that. And, you know, I done well doing all that stuff. But it just, I come to realize, like, you know, I'm just paying my bills. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not, you know, it's not like Toto's going to walk in and go, damn, that kid can sing. Let's hire him.
Sure.
You know, it's like the chances of that are slim to none because I've learned in the music industry, it's very political. I call it musical politics.
Yeah.
You can be the next Steve Perry or the next whoever, but if you're not in a certain circle of people that really like you and want to push you, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
And that was a hard realization for me to come to.
We were having a discussion at work the other day, the whole 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon theory. You know, in other words, you're 6 people away from knowing Kevin Bacon. So just to kind of break this down, my brother-in-law has a friend who works for a guy. That friend was going to, and they're in Nashville, was going to do something, and there was some sort of concert, got something going on, something happening down there, and they're connected in the music industry. Well, this guy ends up backing into an RV trailer. Well, this guy pops out. He's upset. They're having to file a police report. Well, let me get my boss. And guess who his boss is? Freaking Kevin Bacon. So literally 6 people. Okay. So the whole discussion though got to going because not only are you so close to anybody, you know, my brother-in-law's producer has produced for some big names, you know, Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, in the Christian industry, not Three Doors Down, Third Day, Mac Powell, you know, those different guys. But it's so hard for him. It's been so hard for him to just break in, and a lot of it I feel like is because of who you actually know. You know,
It is
all the talent in the world. You know, Meghan Trainor, All About the Bass. That's the worst song ever, but everybody loves it because obviously she's marketable and maybe she just knows somebody and they play it to death. But the odds of somebody like that just because you got talent doesn't mean anything. I think I heard a statistic one time. The next big artist steps off a bus in Nashville every 6 seconds, something like that. So it's crazy the amount of people trying to be the next big star and have all the talent in the world. But if you don't know the right person or in the right circle, you're going to work your tail off to get there. And so, and I'm saying the people that, you know, that do make it big like that aren't working as hard, but it's definitely harder whenever you're a working musician, so to speak, having to pay your dues, or seems like it to me anyway.
Yeah. And I got very lucky with my situation. To give y'all a quick rundown of kind of what helped me get from where I was doing tribute acts to where I am now. When COVID hit, you know, we lost all of our contracts. So we were, you know, tributes and live music was dead for about a year and a half. Well, fast forward to the beginning of 22, I started doing some Lynyrd Skynyrd tribute acts that were looking for a singer to portray Ronnie Van Zant. And, you know, and I had the Ronnie's hat, you know, and all the stage attire, you know, so I'd done it because the money was great and it was a lot of fun. But I started putting up videos of me playing a lot of Skynyrd music on guitar, and specifically Alan Collins, who's my number one hero. He's the only reason why I even pursued music and picked up a guitar. Well, I put up a video of me playing Freebird on YouTube, and it went viral, and done really well. And a friend of mine that I was in a band with from Hattiesburg, he knew the bass player for the Artimus Pile Band, which is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd. He was on the plane crash. And Dave played bass for Artimus Pile. And Well, I become friends with Dave because of my friend through Facebook. I never actually met him, but we had talked several times. Really, really nice guy. Such a sweetheart. Well, out of the blue, the end of August of 22, he sends me. No, he calls me. He calls me because I gave him my numbers. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call me. So he calls me out of the blue, literally about 30 minutes before I'm about to go on stage with a Skynyrd tribute in Alabama. And I saw his name pop up. I'm like, okay, something's really bad or something's really good because he never calls me. So I answered the phone, and he was getting on an airplane because they had just done a big show somewhere out west, and they were flying back. He was flying back to Nashville, and he said, "Look, I'm fixing to get on the plane. I was going to ask you. We need a guitar player to go on tour with us in 38 Special. Are you available?" And plus, naturally, I froze. I was like, "What?" And he said, "Look, I know you can play guitar. I know you can play Alan's parts. I've been watching you for a long time. You got the look. You're young. If you're able to do this tour, let me know something within 24 hours." Oh shit. And well, long story short, I was able to work it out. So I went on tour with Artimus Pile Band and 38 Special. That's what changed the game for me. When I got that gig, I got taken a lot more seriously. Is the best way to put it. So I went on tour with them, and that was the time of my life. I mean, playing Freebird every night and playing the solo to Freebird every night, standing in the position where my hero once stood 45 years ago, and turn and look and see Artimus there.
Yeah.
I was like, if you would have told that 6-year-old me watching that show, the Freebird, the movie, with Artimus was playing drums, if you would have told me then that I'd be playing with him, about 25 years from now, I'd never believed you.
Right.
Right.
So I done that tour. Well, after it was over, Dave Fowler, he's a record producer as well. He does some, producing and stuff. And he said, "Look," he's like, "you've got a great voice. Have you thought about doing some of your own original stuff?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I've teetered on the fence about it, but never done it." He said, "Well, look," he said, "if you decide you want to cut some of your own original material, he said, I can bring you in with some of the best in Nashville, and we can cut you a record and see what happens." And reluctantly, I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." So I went and wrote 5 songs, which is what's on the first record. I went and wrote all those songs, wrote and composed everything myself. And then I went into the studio with a Jack Gavin from Charlie Daniels Band, and then I had Dave Fowler. I got him to play bass. He's a badass bass player. And then I got Dane Bryant, who was the longtime keys player for Clint Black, for over 20 years. These 3 guys were unbelievable. I mean, I told them what I wanted, and they were able to pretty much duplicate exactly what I wanted. And they were all like, "Look, we don't get to play hard rock and metal. Like, we don't get to do that. So we're going to have a really good time."
Right.
So
we're going to enjoy
So they had a lot of fun playing rock and metal versus they're mainly always doing country, And so Jack Gavin, he really was able to tap back into his 80s rock roots, because that's what he loves, is the 80s hard rock. And he was really able to do that. And so we cut the first record, and I'm like, well, hell, if I'm gonna go out and play this record, I got to put a band together. So that's when I had one line up for a while. I still got my same drummer. Luckily I've only went through one bass player, but I've went through three guitar players. And then my most recent guitar player I had, great guy, great guitar player, Jesse Lee. He wound up recently taking a country music gig, where as a hired gun. So he took that gig. He wasn't able to, stick it out with us, the way we needed. Basically, we're not making any money right now, and he needed a paycheck.
Sure, I get it.
So,
I get it, man.
so he had to do what he had to do. No hard feelings. I get it. It's not for everybody. I mean, doing the original music world, as an official member and not a hired gun is hard, because when you're an official member, you're investing in this band. You're not just showing up and playing your parts and getting a paycheck.
Right.
Well,
not only that, but the genre of music that you're in too is tough. Being,
very hard.
For me, like, I love it. I mean, I'm 45 years old. It's what I grew up on, getting this younger generation to follow it, which I do notice. Just my son being 20, like, he listens to a lot of the older classic rock stuff. And it's not anything that I ever just really introduced him to, because I'm not just a huge music person, you know. But I do notice that coming back around, and I think you got some bands. I can't think of the cover band they're out of Alabama. They play the beach a lot, but they're huge. Oh gosh, I'll think of them.
Velcro Pygmies.
The Pygmies. They have a huge following and what they do, and then you've got bands like Lynum and people like that. They do some of their own music, but then they're more that hair metal, classic rock sound, and but it's a very unique niche, and it's got to be tough to get out of just doing, well, hey, you sound like you can sing like Skynyrd and play like Skynyrd, so y'all be a Skynyrd cover band. To do original stuff in that genre has got to be tough. You know what I mean? But man, I wish it would come back.
I think it does. I think it is, though. I think it's on its way back, because I mean, if you notice, a lot of the old shirts people are wearing now, like, people are getting more interested
80s,
in it.
Yeah,
now
the 80s
than
trend,
what it used to be.
Clothing wise is definitely coming back around, and things like that. My daughter had on a Purple Rain shirt one day, and I said, "So you're a Prince fan?" She said, "I don't know who that is." And I said, "Well, baby, you're wearing his shirt." And she said, "Oh, I just liked the shirt."
But the greatest thing too is now, Brandon, y'all have TikTok and things like that now too, to promote your band, that you wouldn't have had if you would have came out when you were younger. Or when you were, like, if you would have came out in the 80s, you wouldn't have had all the things you have now. So
I would say social media is a huge help as far as that goes, showcasing your talent and what you do, for sure.
It's a help to a degree, but they have it now to where you got to pay to play.
No.
It's almost impossible to get something to go viral. The chances of that are extremely selective.
Oh, trust me, man. I know, man. I'm putting out shorts every day and get 300 views, man. It's tough, I mean, not that our podcast is anything, great and wonderful, but, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty close to Joe Rogan. Chris is too,
it's just because I'm bald.
But yeah, it's tough. It definitely is, for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing that sucks now, there's no record industry. Everyone streams it or watches it on YouTube, whatever. And because there's no record industry, ticket prices are through the roof, because the artist isn't making any money. And the amount that it costs to even set up and do a concert on that, is outrageous.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to pay for it. Well, since the consumers are not spending $10 or $20 on a record, they're going to hit you elsewhere. So they're going to hit your pocketbook on tickets.
Right.
And even then, you're still, the artist still isn't quite getting the amount of money that they would if everybody would just go back to supporting the bands and buying the albums.
Sure. And that's one thing I've always tried to be big on. You know what I mean? If there's somebody I like, I'm buying their songs. Now I will sit back and say that there's times I don't buy the entire album. They have one or two songs I like, but I try to buy the entire album, whether I buy it, streaming wise, or I like CDs personally. Like, I still listen to CDs all the time. But
showing your age.
Yeah. My kids are like, "What's a CD?" But I get in a truck, I'll pop a CD in and let it roll. I'll listen to that over my phone all day long. But yeah, I can see where that's tough whenever you're selling your music, but the goal is to sell your music, but nobody's buying entire albums and things like that. It's got to be, man, for sure.
Well, it's like, I had 77,000 streams last year when the album first come out. I had 77,000 streams, and I broke it down. I'm like, if they were to just buy my song for $2 each person, that listen to it. $2 times 77,000, that's roughly about $144,000. Well, you take taxes off of it, about 30% of that, you'd walk away with roughly about $110,000. I could have used that money to pay for a lot to get back in the studio, record more music, reinvest in the band, buy us road gear, buy us better microphones, better this, better that. That way, and then we could afford to have a sound engineer to come and run sound for us to make us sound better live instead of relying on somebody that's never heard us before.
Right.
There's so much expenses for the road that consumers do not understand.
Yeah.
And, I have so many fans of the band. It's like, hey, we want you to come up to Wisconsin, or we want you to come to North Carolina, or we want you to come out to Los Angeles or Washington, and I'm like, we would love to do that. We would do that. But unfortunately, our fans are not supporting the band.
Right.
You're not buying our merch. You're not buying any of our music. You would rather go on YouTube or Spotify or whatever and listen to it for free.
Yeah.
But you want us to come do a show in Washington. Well, guess what? For us to do a show in Washington, you're looking at a minimum $10,000.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking at $5,000-$6,000 just to get us out there.
Yeah, and that's probably not even putting money in your pocket at that point.
No,
and you guys, that's just getting you there. Yeah, And I have found in promoting the podcast, doing shorts and reels or whatever. So with Spotify, whenever I signed up, if we could have hit 100 followers within the first 60 days, we could monetize. Now you're talking about pennies. And that monetization is, donations and things like that. It's not like Spotify's paying us, but if we did it, it's a goal. It's something I strive for. So we've hit about 60 in the first probably 45 days. But man, I was hitting it heavy every single day. Hey, go to Spotify. All you got to do is go to Spotify and hit follow, or go to Apple Podcasts and hit follow, because it all counts, in the same place. But they won't. And I was guilty of that for a long time, watching something on YouTube and find people that I like. And I don't want to click subscribe because I don't want to jumble up my algorithm where it's just showing only that, you know what I mean? But at some point it clicked with me. It's like, this is how these people are making money. And if the minimum I can do is subscribe or follow and it helped them, then I need to do that. And then I've also started trying to buy t-shirts or hats or whatever of the channels I watch and like. And it's the same thing, like I say, with bands. It sucks that we live in a day and a time where if I like your music, all I got to do is find somebody who posted a show, illegally or whatever. They recorded it on their phone and they throw it up, and I can listen to that song, and it has nothing to do with you. Nothing you did other than you were there playing that night. You know what I mean? And it sucks, but I can get my itch scratched even though I'm a fan, not helping you. You know what I mean? And it's got to suck being that that's your full-time gig. And people can take advantage of your music and your creation for free. And I know it's not all about money, and it's not, the fans are important and things like that, but it's like, hey, we do this for you, for your entertainment. Support us, I can imagine it's tough for sure. Especially, you guys are at least a 4-piece band, if not 5 at all times, right?
Yeah, 5-piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes it tough. So how long have you known each of the guys in the band? Let's talk about your drummer, Egon. How long have you been playing together?
I first met Egon in 20.
What's his name, by the way?
Thank you. He's from Brazil, born and raised. He's only been in the States for about 8 years.
Okay.
And anyway,
my favorite character on Ghostbusters. Like, I've always loved that name. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're cool. Anyway, I met him in 2021. I was asked to come fill in for a heavy metal, classic heavy metal cover band out of Alabama called Contagion. And so I went and filled in with them for about 4 or 5 weeks on guitar until they found the guy that they wanted. And then excuse me. And then, like, we just hit it off. He he took a liking to me. I took a liking to him. I loved his energy and his personality. When he performs on stage, he's an animal. I mean, he's flipping the sticks and yelling at the crowd and throwing sticks at them. I'm like, I love this dude, and he's able to slap the stick on the snare and it go like 20 feet in the air, and he'll catch it, put it in his mouth, and I mean, it's just he's such an animal. And I'm like, I was like, if I ever decide to do my own band, that's the drummer I would want to have. And he's just a great person. Like everyone loves Egon. Egon's the life of the party. When he walks in, like all attention's on Egon.
Yeah.
So I've known him since 2021. And then my piano player, I've had him for a few months now. He was originally on American Idol, and I decided to get a piano player because my producer is Kent Wells, the longtime producer for Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm.
And he's certified over 250 million albums sold. He is very, very, very successful. And he said, look, I really feel that you need to go into the direction of arena rock. He's like, with your voice, he said, I know you love the Guns N' Roses stuff. I know you love that hard rock, hair metal stuff. He said, I know you do. He said, I really feel that we could bring back arena rock, into the stuff that you love, like Journey and Boston and Foreigners. I really feel we could bring that style back. So he told me, he said, go find a piano player, but try to find a guy that's young and hungry, that's got youthfulness to him, because unfortunately young women and young girls do not like to look at a bunch of middle-aged men on stage.
Sure.
Don't. He said, so go find a young piano player that's good looking. He said Egon is an exception because he still looks great even though he's right at 60.
Well, he's Brazilian too, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
he still looks great. He performs like an animal. He's a great guy. So Egon's the only exception. So everybody in the band is 32 and under.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan is only 19, and he's fixing to be 20 in September. He's only, he's 11 years younger than me, but he's born at the end of September. And and then my new
my son, like, I can't imagine that, like him, like I'm not ready to let him go, and then here you got a 19-year-old traveling with you playing. That's crazy to me. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Well, it's kind of weird because I have a 10-year-old daughter, so he's only like 9 years older than my daughter.
Right.
But he's like a little brother to me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then the new guitar player I'm looking at, which is he's like a young Eddie Van Halen. The kid is incredible guitar player. He's only 19, but the kid's got the goods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got the goods, and he's got a great personality, got great gear, and he's very hungry to get out on the road and play. Like, that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to just play covers. He wants to get on the road, write music, and he wants to be a star, just like we do. So I'm auditioning him Wednesday. So if he works out, then he'll be our new official guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about him is he's young, he's energetic, and he can jump off shit. He's like an acrobat. Yeah, exactly. I can't jump off stuff anymore like I used to because of my ankles. I have bad ankles now. Because I used to skate a lot and I ruined my ankles.
Yeah. I jumped out the back of a truck at work about 6 months ago and realized that I no longer have any spring in my joints.
Mm-hmm.
I just popped over the bed of the truck and I landed and was like, oh my God. And my buddy was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to be sore tomorrow. There was no give. There was no cushion, no spring. I just, boom, there it was. So I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And, so he can jump off of stuff. He'll be very entertaining. Cause I told him, I was like, when you perform with us, I was like, go overboard. There's no rules in rock and roll. I was like, as long as you hit the notes on time, if you want to jump off the top of a full stack, I don't give a damn. Whatever it takes to get their attention and make it memorable for them to go tell their friends, dude, you got to see SLICKSON REVOLVER. These are crazy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like whatever it takes to get them there. And, and my producer really pushed me to get a band of young people, especially out front, So I'm like, well, I know I'm not particularly young, but I'm not old either. I'm only 32. Then I'll have, hopefully, I got two 19-year-olds that are young and hungry and stupid talented, and then I got my bass player, Jonathan. Jonathan is 30. I think he's 33. I think he's a year older than me. He's 33, and then Egon. So, we'll have a pretty young, lineup for the most part. And our new album that we're in the process, we've already got 9 new songs wrote and composed. We just haven't got into the studio yet because Kent's on call with Dolly constantly. So trying to get in the studio with him is very, very hard because it's hit and miss.
Right.
And but we're wanting to get into the studio and go ahead and record. Like every time we walk in, we want to record 2 new songs because we already got them down. We just got to record them. And because what's going to happen is if I agree to sign with Curtain Call Records with Sony Distribution, they're going to re-release Crossroads on a professional level and push it, put some money behind it and push it.
Yeah.
And then, so they're going to release every song on that album, one every 6 weeks. And I get to choose which songs I want released first. So over the next roughly 6 to 7 months, Crossroads will be re-released as singles, each song. Okay. And then once all those are released, I got to follow it up immediately with new music.
Right.
So I told my producer, I got a meeting with him on Wednesday. I was like, we need to set up a time at least one day every 4 to 6 weeks for us to come in and record our new songs and get them ready to be released starting in January, February.
So what's your recording or your writing process? I guess I know you've got to release these songs, but like, what's your thought process in trying to make all of that happen, but still create new music along the way? How are you balancing that? What's your process in that?
Well, we rehearse usually 3 days a week, 6 hours a day.
Wow.
I mean, we stay rehearsing constantly because we got our management with Scott Bartlett and Nick Martin. We got those guys, and I have 2 booking agents on top of that are constantly trying to get us shows. But us being so new, no one knows who we are.
Sure.
Hard to get anybody to give us a shot. So it's, but like I told my guys, I was like, we are going to stay rehearsing and writing new music. That way, if Nickelback called tomorrow, I wouldn't hesitate to open for them. And not because they're Nickelback, but the simple fact of, I know we're ready.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
We can walk out in front of anybody in this country. I don't give a damn if it's Taylor Swift. She's the biggest artist in the world. We would not hesitate to open for her completely comfortable.
Right.
It would be nervous as hell to be out in front of that many people.
Sure.
But as far as accurately nailing our music as a performance, wouldn't think twice.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a lot of time invested, but if you're going to know your craft, if you're going to do your craft,
you have to rehearse. I can't stand it when I hear bands that say, "Oh, we know the song, we got to rehearse."
Yeah.
Well, that is most immature that any musician will ever tell you. "Oh, we know the songs, we'll get through them." I don't get through nothing.
Right.
Our shows are structured out and we play them properly a certain way. And we know exactly how we're going to start it and how we're going to end it, transitioning right into the next one. There's not going to be, oh, shit, do we end on a 3 or do we end on 4? What do we do here? Oh, shit, I forgot. There ain't none of that.
Right.
But that's what separates them. Right, but that's what separates the men from the boys. So it's one of those things I told my guys, I was like, because we're not out there gigging a lot right now, we got stuff coming, but we're waiting. I was like, so while we're waiting, we're going to rehearse 2 to 3 times a week, 6 hours a day, and we'll spend 3 hours run. We'll usually by the time we run our full set, that's an hour and a half. So we run our full set twice. And then we spend the other 3 hours working on new music or talking about different things within the band. So
you're working as a band as a whole when it comes to your music. You're not just the sole proprietor of lyrics and music and all that. You're taking from your band and letting them give input.
The way we do it is I write most of the lyrics. Now that I have Ryan, he helps co-write certain parts of certain songs that he's helped compose on piano. But I write most of the lyrics. And then As far as our new music goes, 4 of the songs I wrote completely,
Mhm.
musically and lyrics. The other 5, me and Ryan co-wrote. As far as the musical composition, we co-wrote the music together, and then 2 of those songs I wrote the lyrics for, and the other 3, me and him co-wrote the lyrics. So it's kind of back and forth. Me and Ryan are kind of the dominant driving force as far as writing, as far as the writing process of composing new music. And then what we do is we get a structure down, and then we show it to the guys, but we're very diplomatic with it. We're like, look, this is a new song idea. We're going to pitch it to you. If you don't like it, we'll scrap it,
Mhm.
you know. And there's only been a couple of songs that we've done so far that the other 3 were like, I'm just not feeling it.
Mhm.
So we put that on the back burner. We can revisit it later, maybe change the key or change something, blah, 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 you know. But for the most part, everything me and Ryan have wrote together, or that I've wrote and presented to all of them, they've all been very receptive of it so far, which it's really nice to have a band of guys that actually wants to do original music and actually has an open mind, and actually is all on the same page
Well,
as far as the style.
I think that's key and what people don't realize. Whenever you got 5 people in a band, you got 5 different personalities, 5 different
Yep.
ideas, and a lot of times you've got whoever's the head guy is no hell, I'm hell bent on it being my way or the highway, and then you got guys that are in the band that's like, nope, that's not going to work. So whenever you got 4 or 5 guys around you that collectively say, nope, we're in this together, makes a huge difference. And you can see
It
that
does.
on stage, you can definitely, and I know there's, as far as I go, if I was in a band, playing bass, or I wouldn't really care. Whatever you need me to do, tell me to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I also understand when it comes to rights and publishing and things like that, different ways of getting paid, it can get tricky. But you can tell when those bands are not gelling. 100% when they're
Right.
strifing the band or whatever else, or they're just doing it to do it. They're not doing it because they're passionate about music and they want to play, but they would play anywhere. It doesn't have to be this band. You know what I mean? And when you got guys that are just sold out and thinking, yes, this is the band. These are my guys. These are people I love. It makes a huge difference as a fan watching. For me to not see that strife and that hatred going on. You know what I mean? Because there's enough pressure anyway, without having strife, amongst the band for sure. So that's good to hear. That's pretty awesome. Um, so who are some of the bands that you've played with?
I've
Had the
played
pleasure
with
of playing with.
I've played. It's funny you mentioned Lynum.
Mhm.
I done a lot of shows with them from 2013 to about the time they took a long hiatus,
Yeah.
about 2017, 2018, when
Yeah.
Jacob got so busy writing and doing original stuff out in Los Angeles. They just took a long hiatus. Well, they've kind of reunited here recently. They done a big festival up in Canada here recently, and
So I got turned on to them. So some friends of ours, they actually would come play for our youth group, and they had a band, and the lead singer had to step away, and just family, whatever else, and the name of their band escapes me at this point. But anyway, it's 20 years ago. Forgive me, guys. Daniel and David hear this, they're going to be mad at me because I can't remember the name of their band. Anyway,
Which band was it?
they played with whoever that band was that we brought in. We had the big show at the church, and they played. So the Apologetics played, and then Ohio Avenue played, and then we had them open up, and I can't remember the name of their band.
Wasn't like a bod or
No,
nothing?
well, that's where I'm going. That's
Okay.
where I'm going.
Okay.
Eric ended up playing with them. Anyway,
Okay.
to make a long story longer,
Oh, yeah, that band.
yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of that
It'll
band?
come to me
I
in a
know
minute,
exactly what you're talking about.
but either way, so the lead singer left, and another friend of ours joined the band, and their producer did a lot of producing for Lynum, and he wanted them to get on the ticket with them and do some openers, and the lead singer that had came in at the time was just, nope, I'm not doing it because it doesn't pay enough. But then you got 4 other guys in the band who are doing everything they can to make this dream happen. And the lead singer had all the talent in the world, but his attitude just sucked. It was all about the money, none about the band. You know what I mean? And it made it tough on them. because Lynum was playing and they weren't getting paid, and it's like, dude, you're opening for a fairly well-known band. Do it. Do it because
Sometimes you got to take one for the team.
that's
You
right,
do.
because their fan base is going to become your fan base,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's the kicker. So anyway, sorry to get off on my memory,
No, you're good. You're good.
my dementia lane there. So Lynum and who else?
I perform with Lynum, then I Artimus Pile Band and 38 Special. Let's see. I've jammed with some of the guys from Skynyrd. I played with a rock show, Las Vegas ROX show out of Las Vegas, which was a tribute to Journey, Foreigner, and Bon Jovi. Done those guys. And then I've done a Journey tribute. I've done GNR tributes. I mean, I've done a lot of tribute acts. But as far as like bands that have been signed and out there on the road doing it, I was never in Lynum as a member. I just done a lot of shows with them as a guest. They kind of helped me cut my teeth and get out there, in the mid 2000 teens. They would always invite me to, hey, we're playing down, in Florida at Tail Fins, why don't you come down and jam with us? And I jump up and do half a set with them, and it really helped, get me out there in front of more crowds, until I got my big break in Vegas. And, that's what helped me a lot was out there.
So any other bands that you've got to share the stage with as a band, like you guys open for somebody or they open for you?
See,
not to put you on. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to think of there's so many bands that I've jammed with over the years, whether it be a full band or it was like half of the band members, that kind of thing. I did get to jam with Doug Aldrich from Whitesnake. That was a lot of fun. And Howard Lee's from Bad Company. That was in Vegas. I did get to jam with those guys. That was intimidating as hell.
I bet. I bet.
Lord, I would have to really think back and reflect on the different artists that I've been affiliated with, been able to jam with, or sing a song with. I'd have to think about it.
You've had a pretty stellar career. If you ended it right now, a pretty stellar career on some of the people that you've got to share the stage with and stuff. That's pretty awesome. A lot of people that a lot of people would love to be on the stage with. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Especially being from, little old Hattiesburg, Mississippi,
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's definitely been interesting because I was one of the guys that, he won't ever mount the shit.
Yeah. Right.
I was one of those guys, I was thrown in that bubble, because I had a dream and, I wasn't good enough,
right,
to do it. And, I'm kind of, me and James Bo Edwards, which plays for a band named Stone Senate. He's an amazing guitar player. He lives up in Moselle, which is about 20 minutes north of Hattiesburg. He's originally from Meridian, but he's considered a Hattiesburger. He plays with Stone Senate. They're doing great, doing their thing overseas a lot. But me and James Bo Edwards and Alcus Hudson, a good friend of mine, they've all had pretty big success throughout their careers. Now I'm a lot younger than them, but we're kind of one of the only three musicians as far as road musicians that have actually went out and done something. But Alcus Hudson is kind of semi-retired. James Bo does a lot of studio stuff around Nashville when he's not playing with Stone Senate. So he's always playing, doing his thing. And then me, I'm still coming up through the ranks, but I've done quite a lot in a short time, and I've been very, very lucky and very blessed to do the things that I've done.
It's an impressive resume for sure.
It is,
for sure, yeah.
It took me a long time to get here. It wasn't easy. I made a lot of mistakes. I've pissed people off. When I was younger, I did have a tendency to be too pushy and too persistent because I wanted it so bad. So I did kind of not burn bridges, but kind of built up a wall between me and some people, from like 10 years ago. but as I've gotten older, I've matured, I've mellowed out. They've all come back and say, "Look, we're cool, but at the time you were too abrasive."
Yeah.
You know,
No,
um,
and
you
that's
know, we
key in
weren't
life, man. If you can learn from your mistakes, you know what I mean, and people show you grace through it,
right,
that's key right there, and
right.
just remember, Tommy made a statement when we were interviewing him, Tommy Black, just talking about the entertainment business, and he said that somebody told him one time, the same people you're meeting on the way up, you're going to meet them on the way down. So you better be nice to them. You know what I mean? At
Yeah,
some point, they're going up and you're coming down, or you're going up, they're coming down, but you're going to see them again. So, remember those days, because,
Hmm.
they may be able to help you, at some point,
hmm
So
I mean,
what, so before we close, we're coming up on time, but
sure.
anything else you want to talk about there? I mean, anything else you want to throw out other than
Well, I'll cover two things. I've been at this career for right at 16 years. I started when I was 17. I'm about to be 33, so that's right at 16, roughly years. And I'm finally starting to make some headway in the original world, which I've only had SLICKSON for about 2 years now. So I've been able to use my connections that I built over. So if you take 2 years off, roughly a 14-year career, I use those connections, professionally, of course. Not I didn't abuse them,
Mhm.
but I use those connections and relationships that I built with people to try to help SLICKSON get to where it is now, and we're starting to make some headway. It's just taking time,
Mhm.
but hopefully this record deal will go through. We get distribution through Sony Music, that'll help out a lot, hopefully. Um, and it's Sony Orchard, which is the distribution division for Sony,
Mhm.
is what that is. So we're not getting a record deal with Sony Entertainment, but we're getting the distribution deal through Sony's Orchard distribution,
Okay,
which they cover like
distribution.
5,000 plus radio stations nationwide. And they'll get they hit all the streaming platforms really hard. They put money behind it to really push you, you
Right,
know.
right.
So that's what we need, is just a big push on a massive level. So we're going to re-release Crossroads on a massive scale, much bigger scale. Because there's roughly 300 something million people in this country, and there might only be 100,000 of them people that actually know who we are.
Sure.
So we haven't even scratched the surface yet on
Sure.
the amount of people that haven't even heard of us.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll jump from 50 to 100,000 people that have heard our name to, hopefully, hell, 2 or 3 million would be great.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
you guys definitely have the talent, man, for sure. You guys have a good sound, and I would
thank you.
listen to it. We'll listen to it. If you're ever in Birmingham, let me know, man. I'll bring a bowl of brown M&Ms. That way you ain't got to worry about your ride
That's right. That's
and
right.
hang out for sure.
And
Yep, go ahead.
I was just like, the other two things is we have it looks like we have a tour with Faster Pussycat coming up. That's not confirmed, so nobody get on my ass about it. That is not confirmed yet, but we're hoping to have a confirmation by tomorrow or Tuesday.
Okay.
If we're officially on that tour, so it's a possibility. We may be on tour with those guys in the next few weeks. Up north around like Illinois and Wisconsin, that whole area, Indiana. We're supposed to do about 4 or 5 dates with those guys. And then after that, the next show we got the Whiskey A Go Go in Los Angeles. We got booked to play there. Hell, it's been probably about 6 months ago now. So
Yeah.
we're stoked to do that. We're
It's
supporting
awesome.
Heaven's Edge. I'm sorry.
So that's an awesome venue. I've never been there, but I've
Oh
heard
yeah, it's
about
legendary,
it.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never played there.
Uh,
Anyway, but we're doing the Whiskey in LA. I had a short stint out there as well. It was a lot of fun. I never got to play the Whiskey, so I'm looking forward to doing that show out there with the band. We're supporting Heaven's Edge. They were a hair metal band in the late '80s that bled into the early '90s, and they play the Monsters of Rock cruise every year. And
mhm.
so we're looking forward to meeting those guys. And then if we get on with this label through Sony, we are supposed to play their main stage at Daytona Beach in Florida.
Oh yeah, that'd be
That's
awesome.
awesome.
That'll be in October 17th through the 20th, I think. But I'll have everything out there on all of our social media platforms and on our website. It's SLICKSON-revolver.com for those that hear this and want to check it out. We have our own website.
That's a
We'll
dash,
have
an underscore, right?
Yeah, it's just a dash.
A dash,
Yeah.
not an underscore.
SLICKSON-revolver.com. That's our website.
I'll post everything in the show notes too. That way, everybody who's listening, you can go check them out and find that from there. Don't mean to cut you off, but continue.
No, you're good. So we'll have everything on all of our social medias as far as our show dates and our website. So, and we will keep everybody updated. But we're easily accessible. If anybody has any questions or anything, they can reach out to me. Or if anybody wants to book us, we do some covers as well, depending on how long we're booked to play. We got about an hour and a half worth of original material, but we got about an hour's long worth of covers. Some 70s and 80s stuff. So if we could do weddings as corporate events and stuff like that, so if anybody wanted to book us, you can reach out to us. We're easily accessible. So,
sweet. That would be a
but anyway,
sure.
Yeah, it would be.
We'd love to do it. We'll play November Rain as the bride walks in.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick, and you can turn it down. You set up to play anything? Could you play for us?
Actually, I'm not, brother. I wish I'd have thought about that. I would have done it.
Too, man. I was thinking about halfway through. I was like, I wish I had him play something. But I'll tell you what, if you want to do this, if you want to, it's totally up to you. But if you want to record something real quick at some point and just email it to me or whatever, I'll be glad to throw it in the video.
I have some stuff recorded. Yeah, I can send you something.
Shoot me something, man. I'll throw it in there, and that way folks can get a sound bite as well. So
yeah.
Well, all right, brother. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Again, I do appreciate you jumping on short notice. I know we had you booked and things happened and fell through, and we were going to try to do through the week last week, and that didn't happen. And so I'm glad it did, man. It's a good interview. I've enjoyed it. So, well, all right.
Yeah, that sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, good deal. Well, we will post everything in the show notes, guys. Go check them out. SLICKSON REVOLVER. If you like 80s music, if you like rock and roll, good old Southern rock, they're pretty.
Or if you like Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah, if you like Skynyrd. Either way, man, they are I'm not just talking it up. I mean, they're really talented. They're really good. So check them out and help build their fan base, man. Go support them, buy some songs, buy some merch, some pretty cool designs out there too, especially if you like hot chicks. But yeah, all right, brother. Well, Branon, man, we really appreciate your time, dude. And we'll be in touch.
Man, for sure. Thank you.
Yep. If we can do anything, let us know, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good day.
Yes, sir.
You too, bro. Thanks, man.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.